Still a little early. If we're going to have a lecture on time management, I think we ought to start on time, don't you? I mean, that's kind of it. So, I know a lot of you. I'm Mike Dietrich. I'm the Associate Dean of the Wright School of Business, and I've been charged today with putting together a little lecture on time management. So I'm not sure that the dean might not be having some hidden message there. We'll talk a little bit about listening and other tools to organize the things that you need to get done, and I'm not altogether sure that she's not having some more subtle message to me. If you walk into our office and look on the right side, there's a whiteboard with all of the things that I haven't gotten done yet, and I suspect that she thinks maybe I should reflect on my time management skills. So for those that don't know me, I came here in 1999 to start with the 4-year degrees. We had 2 programs, Industrial Operations Management and Management Information Systems. And so you can see now that we've become predominantly a 4-year institution with 20-some bachelor's degrees. I graduated from Michigan State 3 times. My parents graduated 3 times, and they were on the faculty for 30-some years each. So, and then Spartan Village School, where I went as a child, was a part of the education program at Michigan State. So you could argue that I went to kindergarten at Michigan State. So education is very, very important in my family. And it's served me well, and I think it will serve you well also. I guess I could say a little bit more about that. Since this is professional development and Halloween's coming up, I got my interviewing suit on. So I've got the prerequisite shoes and the socks and the shirt, the proper knot, and something that you probably aren't taught. When I was first interviewing, it was a real faux pas to go out without a very nice pen. So I bet you haven't been instructed to do that, but I was given a pen and pencil set by my grandfather, and if I were looking for a job, I'm not, I would have them with me, whether you would be comfortable with that or not. They haven't taught you to get a nice pen and pencil, yeah. But back in the day, the way you handle your resumes now is very different. When I did it, you had to get it all set and taken to a printer, and you'd have 200 of them made up. So now with the word processors, you can adjust to any circumstance. And some of my views, I think, are a little bit dated. That's another problem. That Shaw wants people to interview business casual. That really freaks me out. To not have an objective on your resume, again, that just freaks me out. But I think the game is a lot more nuanced and sophisticated now. And I think as you think about how you're going to use your time, you need to recognize that chances are when you go into that interview, they're going to have Googled you, they're going to have looked at your Facebook, they're going to have researched you on LinkedIn. Now, when I went in, all they had was the resume, but I think as you plan your activities, I think you want to focus on doing everything you can to have one clear, concise message, which is, you know, I want to be, work for you, and I'm an ethical, motivated, dedicated business professional. And to that end, I have my, now time is money, Benjamin Franklin. When you start researching or looking for all of the resources on the web with time management, Ben Franklin is very prominent. But and time is money, as he said. But my grandfather always said that if you're working for somebody, work for them. To really go in there and say, you know, you're paying me, maybe not very well, but I'm going to give this 100%. And even when I've had minimum wage jobs, I like to think I gave it 100% and was able to go on to bigger and better things. And I would encourage you to do the same. So here's the outline of the talk. Maybe this is what the dean had in mind, that if you want to get something done, ask a busy person. But, and the other kind of funny thing about it is when you look at time management, again, we're going to be talking about to-do lists, Pareto analysis. Now that's something from operations. I'll be explaining, I think Duran really should get credit for the prioritization application of some of Pareto's ideas. A lot of the quality people would say it should be a Duran diagram. And then Covey, I think Ben Lauder has you guys read his book. Is that correct? Yeah, so you should have seen that. But here we're talking about real techniques to actually manage your time. But this stuff here, it's kind of personal, I guess. It's a little bit outside my comfort zone. And I like quotes. So Ben Franklin here, early to bed, early to rise, makes a person healthy, wealthy, and wise. So that's true. But I like my grandfather taught me, it's not when you get up that counts, but what you do after. So you get up in the morning, go out and do something worthwhile, be prepared, focus on doing things well. Now, I don't know if I can do this from here. I can go back here. I don't like that either. I've never worked in this room before, so I'm a little befuddled. In a moment here, I'm going to take some time or a chance to commend you for going to college and completing your degrees. That I want to say that time you're spending here and now and the money, I want to believe will be some of the best that you spend in your whole life. Yeah, here we are. And again, I'm very interested in continuous improvement and investments here. And if you look at what happened to people that didn't have college degrees in the last economic downturn, you can see that they really, really had a tough go of it. In this area, I think the carpet industry went through something like a 30% reduction in force. And now carpet production is back up to where it was before the crash, but employment isn't. I mean, those jobs that left, they just aren't coming back. And again, they're largely the less skilled jobs. And by investing in yourself, you're going to, I think, be an example for your family. And I think it's an absolutely essential investment that you've made. And my father always said when I was going to school, he said you would look back on this as the best time of your life. And I knew the guy was nuts. But, you know, the number of commitments, the competition for your time and attention, and the responsibilities. I know a lot of you work. I know a lot of you have families. But I suspect you'll still look upon this as a very good period in your life. And for somebody who's into quality movement, 0 defects. I want to see every one of you graduate. And again, look for something interesting to do. Find something you love to do, and you'll never have to work a day of your life. Here, if you think education's expensive, try ignorance. Life is hard. It's even harder when you're stupid. So getting educated, I think, is an essential requirement. Now, when I was at your stage, again, a lot of you could become a United Auto Worker and make more money than a college professor. But again, those jobs have been just largely decimated. My uncle was a United Auto Worker, and even though he always had a lot of money, a lot of toys, he ultimately died a very, very angry man. Can you manage time? You know, no. You know, time is almost one of the most invariable things that we have to work with. They tell me it's infinite, maybe it's always been here, maybe it always will, but if you look at what we have to work with, it's a really, really tiny little sliver. You know, and in fairness, we all have the same 24 hours a day. You know, and what we do with it is up to us. You know, and if you want more time, probably none of you ever read the book Catch-22. They made it into a movie. I think it starred Donald Sutherland, President Snow. Anyway, one of the characters was Dunbar, and he wanted to extend his life, okay? And so Dunbar loved shooting skeet because he hated every minute of it, and time passed slowly. So if you really want more time, one way to do it is to get a job that you really don't like, and then you'll have a long, long life, but you'll be absolutely miserable, okay? So what are we going to do with the 24 hours a day that everybody else has? And here I just have to do this because they all speak about it. And it first things first, you know, that again, maybe from your point of view, you're young and strong and bold and you've got the whole world before you, and I'm certainly envious. But you get to my stage of the game and you see classmates that didn't take care of their health, other people, and again you realize that if you've got to spend a lot of time on medical necessities and other distractions, in a way that's taking your time from you. If you're not healthy, not engaged in what's going on, that's less time that you have to work with. And technology. I think I make good use of technology, right? And again, exercising. My grandfather lived to be 92 in good health pretty much through his whole life, you know? And I think my dad's father, on the other hand, didn't make it to age 45. He didn't take very good care of himself. My father didn't take very good care of himself. If you need some kind of motivation to get out and exercise, all you need is the image of the scars on my dad's chest. I don't know how many times they went into him, but more than twice. You know, and that motivation to get out and get some exercise and take care of yourself, I think is very, very important, and a way of making time, right? The only place you see them make time or change time or create time is on Star Trek, but the closest thing that we have is being healthy and getting enough sleep. Those electronic devices, they're saying that blue light is very, very bad. If you go to sleep typing on your smartphone, that's going to disrupt your sleeping habits. Get a flu shot, drink water, the obvious, don't smoke, caffeine, sugar, find some time for yourself. And then we got to wear sunscreen and tanning. The university system with my Fitbit, they're paying me to take steps. Okay, and I think again it's a cool thing that the priority is on keeping people healthy. And I'm entitled to an hour a day for exercise on company time. I imagine the companies that you join, again, that's keeping people healthy is increasingly an important priority. Okay, so then and they've been on me. I have to, I don't agree with all of the information I have to give them. Okay, privacy's dead, but Mike Dietrich's not going to jump on her grave. But I guess if they're going to pay me to be nosy, I'll go along with it. And one of their big carps is sunscreen. And then wear sunscreen, the commencement address that Kurt Vonnegut never gave. So I have the link there. I'll send it to you. It's pretty good, but I don't think we're going to have enough time, but I'll send it to you. But it speaks to all of these issues. It's a commencement address, which is where you need to be, right? We need to see you at graduation for a commencement ceremony, and hopefully the speaker there will be as inspired as this one is here, talking about what you need to do with your life. The best commencement speech I ever saw was by, and I've seen a lot of them, was by Jerry Dry. Anybody take his class? I mean, he did a terrific job, but anyway. Relationships, okay? To me, all problems in life boil down to relationships or money, all right? But, invest early and invest often in the people you're going to put time into. If you get a good partner, and most of you know, or a lot of you know, I have 3 sisters, and my wife has 4 sisters. And with some divorces, I've had more brother-in-laws than I can count, And you look at people trying to put together a relationship later in life, and it's really tough. When you're young and Suzanne, we've been together a while. We can just about number the fights. We don't even have to have the fights anymore. We can say that's fight 27, right? So I would suggest that you think about the effort and the time necessary to maintain a sound relationship. And as time goes on, just like getting money invested for retirement, I think the dividends that pays will make life much better for you, and it won't create more time, but it will make better use of the time that you have. And again, my grandfather, the kind of friends you have is the kind of friend you are. And friends take a lot of time and a lot of effort, and they can be assets or they can be liabilities. And here Tim Smaby was a colleague of mine. We would remind you after graduation, everybody becomes a finance major. When you don't have a lot of money and the car doesn't run and the oil, the oil doesn't get changed, life gets tougher. Here is Ben Franklin's schedule of his daily activities, and it's kind of like the seminal document for time management. And I believe, did you do it? I wasn't aware of it until today, that you had been given an assignment for this class. Did you do it? You did? Oh, wow. You filled out all the things that you did during the day? I believe you. I believe you. Did anybody else do it? Oh. Did you find it useful and interesting? Yeah. The idea here is to do a time audit and look at how much time you spend on the day and then classify them as the less beneficial activities, and take practices and efforts to diminish the less productive things or standardize the things that you have to do them as efficiently as possible, and focus on the more important things. We're going to be saying with Pareto analysis that 80% of the benefit is going to come from probably 20% or less of the activities that you engage in. To-do lists, that's one of my personal favorites. Prioritization, and reward yourself. And I think Ben Franklin here, he speaks of what good shall I do this day. He also has a moment for prayer in his schedule, but get up in the morning and what am I going to accomplish today? And at the end of the day, take a moment to reflect on, did I get it done? And is there room for improvement? Focus. When I get up in the morning, I kind of identify with Ben. The first idea I have when I roll out of bed is usually my best one. The day tends to go downhill from there. If I can come in and get on whatever task I realized needed to be done, things go pretty well. And then how to keep from having it all overwhelm you, I think I learned that perspective when I was doing my dissertation. That job was so large, so comprehensive, that if I started to think about it, I'd just freak out, okay? And all I could do was focus on each day, the task at hand, one day at a time. This Dale Carnegie. I think this, I'm not completely familiar with the story, but this Sir William Oslo, I think he was terminal. He had some kind of terminal cancer. Okay, how do you relate or handle that? You know, and he said he just took one day at a time. And in a way, we're all terminal. We've all got only so much time on this earth. But to take each day one at a time, not pay too much attention to what happened in the past, and not worry too much about the future, and get the most out of each day. And I actually think I'm pretty good at that. I think I'm pretty good at coming in, finding what needs to be done, looking at my list, and knocking it off. Okay? And the other thing, even though I have lots of lists, I will, if I'm on something, you'll see on my desk AM, and then a note on where I was. You know, and if I can come right back in and pick up where I left off, that helps a great deal. One thing I don't do is this clearing to neutral that Ben Franklin talks about. You know, at the end of the day, you know, he had two, you know, he had light work around lunch, and then he had a heavy work session in the morning, and then a heavy work session at night, and then personal time and other activities in the evening. But he had structured his day very carefully, and one of his points was during the shallow time to clear his work area, so it was ready for the next day, the next set of tasks. My dad, when we would do construction projects, he had to, at the end of without you, but to get into the habit of you know, letting the person sponsoring the meeting know you're not going to be there and that you'll make it up, I think will save your career 2 or 3 times and you won't even know it. Okay? So I'd notify them, I'd apologize. That's his first insight. But his second, more important one is circumstances where you don't have a deadline to motivate you, right? And if you stop and think about it, those are the really important ones. You know, if you want to have your own business, you know, again, staying on task to get graduated from college, finding more time for your relationships, you know, that kind of thing. And I think, you know, again, I don't know how many of you have children, but I can promise you it'll be over before you know it, you know, and to look back on it and wish you'd spent more time with your children when they were small, you know, that was something that there wasn't any real deadline for. You know, that he describes in the case of a deadline, this panic monster. You know, as you get really close to that deadline, that panic monster comes out and provides the adrenaline rush that you need to pull the all-nighter to get it all done, even if it isn't that good a job. But this not having the panic monster to motivate you on these more subtle and probably important goals in your life is something that I think you really need to think about. You know, because time goes by much faster than someone in your life might recognize. Time stealers, again, all of the different things that can come in and distract you from what you're trying to do. I looked at several of them. This one I had kind of a nice thing I could paste into that slide. Perfectionism, I think, is one of my problems. You know, whether it's a basis for procrastination. A student sends me a message, you know, and I think, okay, I want to do a nice job of responding to that. And then I don't get to it, you know, and pretty soon it slides off down the list of email messages, and I don't get it done, or it doesn't get done correctly. You know, excessive emails, social media, the texting, delegation, correcting other people's mistakes. Here's one, the inability to say no, people assigning you to tasks, you know, so. And here are some strategies to deal with procrastination. This primes the pump is my idea. Sometimes I come in the morning, or I'm not very motivated, and I'll pick something off the list that I can knock out. And usually that gets me a little sense of satisfaction, and I can move on to a more serious issue. Here, this is Mark Twain. If it's your job to eat a frog, it's best to do it first thing in the morning. And if it's your job to eat 2 frogs, it's best to eat the biggest one first. So there's something to be said for going in there and getting right to work. Okay? Do the hardest tasks first. This chunk, block, and tackle is something I think I do. Especially on Fridays, I've had Dean release me to work Friday mornings. I have everything set, you know, to do analysis, the schedule, writing a paper, a report, and to be able to have everything in place there, nobody around at home, and I can have a very productive 3 or 4 hours, and I can do some deep work that way. In the office, again, there's a lot of distractions, and sometimes it's a bit more challenging. This salami technique, in a way I did that on my dissertation. They're saying break it up into, take one slice at a time, and the Pomodoro technique is nothing but the salami technique with a timer. But again, they're all saying find things to break things up and knock them off and stay focused on the task at hand. Once upon a time, when I got something done in the office, I would play a few games of Spider Solitaire.